today to do my spoiler review for Caging Skies by Christine Leunens. It has just recently been made into, this year it was made into the movie Jojo Rabbit. I'm really excited to watch that, but before I watched it, I wanted to read the book. And I'll start just here, big trigger warning for abuse with this book. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with my review because I personally found it quite disturbing. But for people who have suffered spousal abuse of some kind, I would super not recommend this book because the back half will be very triggering because of it. So just tread carefully moving forward. This book isn't at all what I expected. As I mentioned in my spoiler-free video, I definitely was kind of expecting something more along the lines of like Boy in the Striped Pajamas meets Number the Stars by Lois Lowry, but then just with adult instead of middle grade content. And it was way, way past that in terms of adult content. You follow Johannes as he grows up in Nazi-occupied Vienna, and it kind of shows him as a small child being socially engineered to accept the Hitler Youth and everything that stands for. And you follow him all the way up into early adulthood and his dark obsession with this girl his parents were trying to help save. And so I'm just going to jump right into my likes and dislikes, just to get over it, for lack of a better term. So my first like is I really enjoyed following Johannes as a youth in the Hitler Youth because I found it gave a really good concept of why you would join, like why his parents didn't necessarily object, but also what it did to socially engineer the next generation who were going to be involved once the inescapable battle kind of came to the front. My second like was kind of the power inequalities that were explored with some of the relationships. The most horrifying one was with Elsa and Johannes. And although in his mind, he's kind of describing it like this great love, even the way it's described in the book doesn't necessarily romanticize it. He's trying to romanticize it in his thoughts. But just reading it, you can tell it's incredibly disturbing and incredibly toxic. Like there's something seriously wrong with this boy. And that is never in question. So I think that it really does show his obsession, but without romanticizing it to try to make it seem like it's acceptable. And my third and final positive is moving from kind of understanding why Johannes is the way he is as a youth because of all the social engineering that went around with the Nazi party, to moving to outright disgust as an adult because of the horrible, horrible things he's been doing. Like actively doing, not just because he's a vulnerable child. It was very interesting and incredibly creepy. And I'll jump into my negatives now as well. My first negative is very similar to that in my spoiler-free video. I did find the front half of the book to be particularly rushed because it didn't go as in-depth with a lot of the social engineering and propaganda that the Nazis were dealing with and what was being absorbed by the children. So like, although it kind of touches on Johannes's attachment to the fur as like this masculine idol, it doesn't really show anything else in there. And I wish it would have explored it a little bit more deeply because I think it would have given us a little bit more insight to Johannes as an adult. My second negative is how long Johannes went without being discovered in terms of his lies and fabrications. I really don't think that it would have gone undiscovered or that something like that would have been as easily covered up. But at the same time, I'm wondering how many people were functioning under this, like, don't ask, don't tell kind of policy. So it could have been from there too. It felt, as horrifying as everything is, that is the part that felt unbelievable. But I think it's just because I hoped that part would be unbelievable and that he would have been caught in, say, our time. Or the world as I hope it would be would catch him. And my final negative is just, again, talking about how disturbing it was to read about Johannes and Elsa and how Johannes was abusing and manipulating her. And although I like the general concepts of, like, the recognition of, oh, this isn't good and blah, 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 and don't do this and don't do that, it was so hard to read Johannes justifying his bullshit. And it was very hard to read. With the characters, you have Johannes and then and Elsa and a bunch of other side characters. The side characters are they're not cookie cutter, but you have to really read between the lines and really delve into what Johannes is not saying to get what's actually going on and what they're doing, which I found really unique. I really liked kind of distinguishing what the characters were like myself, even though I was gleaning information from this really biased perspective, which leads me to Johannes. You can tell that there's something going on with him through the entire book that manifests itself as this obsession with Elsa. I found him to be dark and disturbing, although he did start off reasonably innocent. And his obsessive nature, while I enjoyed that it made me dislike him, I also didn't enjoy how hard it made it to finish the book. I will just do a quick wrap up here and then I'll let you go. So I gave this a 3 out of 5. It was good. Like, it wasn't the most amazing book I've ever read, but it was good. I'm definitely intrigued to see how the movie goes when I get to it. The start was awesome. I loved the propaganda machine. I loved the social engineering and how it affected this younger generation. But the back half, because of how disturbing it was, it really pulled me out of my absorption into the story, which I think just makes me seem like a decent human being because I found that fucking terrible. And as such, this really just isn't a book I'd recommend lightly. It is really intense in the back half, although the front half is intriguing. And just, again, guys, be careful. There is a trigger warning here for abuse, especially spousal abuse, because of the situation going on. I know some people out there are really going to like it. I'm just very hesitant to recommend it unless I know the person personally. If you're interested, read it. If you've watched the movie and are interested in the book, definitely give it a shot. You kind of know what you're getting into. But just tread carefully with this. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!